What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Jezebel's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Bingo Toys Jezzy. This is on loan to me from Robert Detoff, 1/4 of the dummies, who was kind enough to let me take a look at this. This is like an IDW-ish representation of the character, our second offering as such, as Generation Toys did one as well, and then Flame Toys did a non-transforming one that was somewhat comparable. To the Patreon folks, I want to apologize. There was no first impressions of this. I didn't think it was fair, since this was passed around like a fifth of Jack Daniels at a college party over the past weekend. It really wouldn't truly be a first impression, but there will be afterthoughts on Patreon. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this guy, but in order to do so, we need to first start with accessories. He comes with this gun. We have silver paint here on the barrel as well as a red metallic. We have silver paint here on the scope. Other than that, just sculpted plastic, but it looks good. This can peg into his shoulder and then sort of curl around over top of his head to have like a shoulder mounted weapon. And he can hold it just fine with a peg in the palm that will insert into a groove in the handle of the weapon. You use that same notch system with the barrel, or with the handle rather, to tab into the side in vehicle mode. You know what's better than one gun? Two. And he comes with a second, and we have some red accents here, otherwise just nice sculpted detail. You can use this tab here to peg into his backpack, and he can store that. You can also just tab it in there if you'd like. And he can hold it just fine in the same manner that we discussed with the other gun. The same is true for this other gun. Just use that same system on your spoiler here to do it in alt mode. He comes with two swords. We have gray handles and blue translucent blades. Once again, not my favorite way of doing business. This would have been better painted with a metallic blue on these blades, but that's what they chose. You can peg them into the hip skirts so that he can kind of carry them on his hip. And just like the guns, they can peg into his hand and wrap his fingers around. You can also interconnect the two handles to make like one big weapon, which of course he can hold in the same manner. The swords in alt mode are intended to tab on to the tires. You can tab onto front or back, it looks like, but in all the pictures and stuff I've seen, they're on the back. But yeah, either or. He also comes with these sets of speakers. They come in the box tab together. As you can see, there are tabs here that interlock with one another. And they can also be used on the forearms to kind of beef up the forearms or give that extra kind of look or aesthetic. For alt mode, the speakers have a couple options. You can use this tab and the female connection there on the gray to kind of go that way, or you can use this tab with the roof and have them on almost as like wings. Your choice. I'm not sure that either are necessarily all that effective, although I think the purist in me prefers them at the back like that. And then, although I've had these on the entire time for the opening footage and stuff, these are technically accessories as well. Once again, there's that tab here. That tab can interlock onto the forearm. Backward this way would probably work best to keep the windshield out of the way. But you can kind of have it on and have that look, or you can use this and tab it on here to these armatures where then they can articulate back and forth. They can swivel up and down. It gives you a little bit more of options in terms of posability and playability. And we'll get in tight on the head sculpt for Dennis. And I'm not crazy about it, and I'll tell you why. The blue translucent, they should have done better. It should have been a painted piece. You can still do light up features and stuff with a painted piece. We talk about it all the time. Very, very possible. But you can do, there's no short of what you can do. Actually, I'm not crazy about the facial expression either. The helmet sculpt looks good. Sculpted well enough too, with nice details. The head is on a double ball peg, so you're going to get great range of motion all the way up, great down, side to side, confused Jezzy face. All of that works quite nicely. As for the abdomen area, one thing I will say is, as you manipulate the arms, it's a little bit of a tight joint. Has a tendency to want to pull the chest pieces apart. They are locked in, and as long as you use a little bit of care, you'll be fine. Nice paint on the white there. The 4 is a pad printed piece. The red is painted on. We have translucent blue here for the front. And then, of course, the stripes, they're pad printed as well. We have a waist swivel. We have a double jointed ab crunch that gets you significantly over, and a teapot joint. For the abdomen here, we have gold and red accents. Shoulders, get you universal joint, get you a little bit more than 90 degrees. Nice gold details there. No bilify joint, but you do get the swivel until you bump into the extra stuff there on the back. The white looks good there too. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, get you past 90 degrees. Wrist swivel. Fingers are individually articulated on a base ball peg and then come out to a secondary hinge. That's what you're working with there. Thumbs are on a ball peg that come out to a secondary hinge as well. And then we have some gray accents that sit on the forearm and a little bit of gold there on the back. Let's back out now, look at the whole figure. Hip skirts, you got plenty of them. They hinge up, out of the way. To expose our universal joints, which gets you past the full Van Dam, past the full Monty. Thigh swivel, fully painted thighs with the kind of grayish blue color popping out there. It's really a single hinge. There is a double, but it's more for transformation to get you 90 degrees there for the knee. Nice metallic blue there on the wheel. Some silver and gold, giving us silver and gold. And some details and stuff on the inside of the leg. That looks good. Toes are silver. You get an ankle tilt down and an ankle tilt up and a rocker. All of that works nicely. Nothing really left to say. Looks good from the back as well. Very clean. Let's do a size comparison. There it is next to the Fans Toys Jazz. So significantly larger than your kind of Masterpiece Carbot. As a heads up, if you were looking to integrate in any sort of kind of way, it's going to be a bit off in that regard. There it is with the Takara Rodimus. So even that, he's a good half a head to full head length taller than Rodimus. So, he's a big bot, like, you're going to have to figure out exactly how you want this guy to integrate within your collection. All right, let's try to start easy. Open up this section here. Fold the hands in while they're balled up. And make sure the whole hand fits in. Not a whole lot of room for error. There's one. And then you turn this out 90 degrees. Same for this side. I'm going to see if I can't do it any more gracefully. No promises, of course. There we go. Come on. And we go. There. That was actually a bit better, wasn't it? And then rotate that out. All right, we got to get this chest plate down. So untab your backpack and sort of collapse all this stuff. These pieces here make up the side of the chest. They're on double hinges. They tab in. You can untab them. And then this chest piece here will flip up. The bumper here will flip out. The head section will flip up, flip around, and flip back down. Maybe I need to turn the head. I can't remember. No, definitely not. Well, I shouldn't say definitely. I don't think so. All right, there we go. That's it. And then we're going to flip all of this up to the top. So now we got to get this tire flipped. So flip this down. And then you can see they're on these two armatures. You want to get that in there, right? And then take your kind of fender here and tuck this over top and tab it in. There has been some paint chipping. This thing, like I said, it got passed around a fair bit at my house recently, and people definitely transformed it. And after a couple transformations, it definitely has lost some paint. So something to be mindful of. There we go. And then fender up and over the top. Peg in. Good. All right, so underneath here, we need to take his flank pieces. They're on double hinges. They'll come up and over and tab into this center section here of the core of the body. You do have to make sure that the top ab crunch joint is down, that it's not activated, you know. Same on the other side. Just to streamline that torso. There. And make sure that that piece is flat. Then this whole section comes up. And then this piece here rotates down on a double hinge. You can kind of just get that out of the way for now. And then these hip skirts come up and just sort of form around the center here, really just to get out of the way is all they're doing. You can bring these pieces in and sort of connect all of this, you know, make sure that you have access to all that. But there's a series of tabs. There's ones here. There's ones on this armature there. Like, you'll see them as you go. There's ones. Is that a tab? No. But you'll see them as you go to do it. And that part is actually fairly intuitive. Open up the his nether regions here. Bring this down. That will allow these hip joints to kind of separate. Kind of like a combiner. Like a torso piece of a combiner. Make sure that these are out of your way as you rotate your hips up on both sides. And then we get into what they say is the kind of more involved part. So we're going to take this ankle protector and we're going to collapse that up. We're going to bring the down and we're going to take this piece here and rotate that up so that it sits in line. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And then we're going to take this blue piece and push it down so that it creates a more flat, streamlined foot than what we were looking at before. On the back of the leg, fold that piece out. And then on the knee, bring this piece down, fold this piece inside of it. And you want to take the knee, collapse it in on itself, and then take this and tab the knee back into the kind of location that it was initially. Take your wheel, rotate that 180. It'll kind of like lock into place on its own. And then take your, here, make sure this is out of the way. Take your spoiler out. Rotate this section up and out of the way. This section down. And then just angle that kind of as need be. Then you just want to make sure that this foot swings out and is in line with the wheels. Take this piece and flip it out. And then take this section around. That will tab in there to the back. And then when you bring the foot up, you collapse it in. And the toe actually has a notch that will line up with this little slot there on the side. So let's try to do all that on this side. So ankle protector up. Slide the foot down. This is already collapsed. Let's try to do that again. So ankle protector up, slide the foot down. There's these gray pieces on the side. They're going to rotate about 180 to sit in line over the blue piece. The blue piece will then double hinge up and down so that it sits like a flat piece. And then you want to untab this. You can even bring this out and up and take this kneecap up, fold this piece in. We're going to utilize our knee here, collapse it onto itself, and then fold this piece back down over top. Your wheel will come down and sort of lock into place naturally on its own. Make sure your spoiler is in line here. And then we're going to bring this piece down. We're going to rotate this out to the side. We're going to flip open this little tab here, the bottom of the foot. We're going to wrap this around and plug it in. We're going to bring this up, collapse it in, and tab it into the little notch here that lines up. And then I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure this piece out. Collapse that, and you'll realize that you have this crotch piece that's sitting out. It has 2 slots there for 2 tabs. Did you see that spin? That's a spin all over this thing, so to speak. Bring this down, and that will lock that. And then likewise on this section, you have this piece, and you have 2 tabs here. And when you go to put them in place, I want to make sure that I can... these tabs here, they're going to go back at the bottom of this section. So just get it up and underneath there. And then you can kind of guide it in. There we go. There we go. So it locks in to both these sections here and 2 in the back there, so to speak. And then you can just line up your spoiler and make that make sense. All right, and then the final piece here is this section. So there's this little rail bar here. Just flip that down. Flip these windows out. And then the doors are on sliders. So slide them down all the way to the bottom. And then it's obvious which way the doors need to sit on the vehicle. And there's a tab here that will lock into that section. And then there's a tab here that will interlock into the roof. So you want to utilize both of those. And then, you know, moment of truth stuff, right? So this is going to come sit back down over top, and then there's just connection points. So the doors tab in to the forearms, and then tab up and underneath to the rear fender piece. You know, and then same for the other side, and then you just sort of lock everything together. And I can sit here and fight with this thing, but like those are the major steps, and then you'll notice that you've pretty much got it. I'm just going to go through it and then come back once it's formed, because it's just a waste of time. But those are the steps. I'll see if I can't get some of it. I just don't want to sit here and waste your time. That's how you do it. And then you flip this down. And there it is. And you could probably get it a little bit tighter if you were to mess around with it a fair bit. Rolls fairly well, but it does feel like something is banging up against the bottom of this. But it does roll. The tires feel good. The metallic blue wheels look great. I do feel like the front of this and maybe a little bit of this section looks a little unfinished. But I'm nitpicking. Overall, I really kind of like what they did with it. The stripes... paint comes through nicely. The gold here comes through quite nicely. The Tampo or pad printed paint here with cyber.com, which I don't know if you want to go to that site or not. And also the 4. The Batmobile engine there in the back, along with the brake lights and turn signals and stuff. That's all painted. Looks good. The front looks good. The little 4 here that's off center. I dig that as well. Not crazy about it. I think this whole figure could have been better had they not done the translucent plastic at all. Whatever sprue that was, had that just been on a blue that they painted the same metallic color like here, I think everybody would have been happier. It would have got this, the visor on his face, as well as the swords. So all of that would have been a bit better. But yeah, I think that this is fairly well done. You know, I don't really have a whole lot of criticism. Let me give you a size comparison with Tiger Tracks, you know, because this is a bigger bot in general, and you know it holds true in alt mode as well. 21, we're drinking, baby. Cheers. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negative. I don't like the translucent plastic for the visor. I think it's off-putting. Also, the face sculpt isn't the most defined or best proportion that I've ever seen. The tolerances of the shoulders have a tendency to want to pull apart the chest pieces as they're tabbed into the torso. And I'm not crazy about the ball peg fingers. They have a tendency to make themselves feel a bit spindly. And then I think in alt mode, there's just like a little bit of unfinishedness, specifically around where the windshield meets the hood and where the roof meets the kind of rear of the vehicle. And not to harp on the kind of translucent plastic, but once again, had it just been painted throughout, the whole thing would have had a better presentation from kind of front to back. Moving on to the positives, there's plenty to talk about. It's painted from head to toe. The sculpted details look fantastic. The materials feel great. There's tons of attitude, tons of character that come through. Translucent plastics, more of a matte paint or satin finish along with metallic paints give it a very vibrant look. The accessories integrate well. The articulation is top shelf to include double jointed neck articulation, so to speak, as well as abdominal articulation. There's a lot of playability here in regard to the robot. One other thing I really got to talk about with this guy in regard to the positives is how impressed I am with the transformation engineering. I enjoyed the entire process from start to finish. And I've never felt that way about a Bingo Toys, I don't believe, until now. And on top of that, it makes me even more optimistic because I am as in as you can be with their Technobots. So if their engineering holds up with their Technobots like it is here, and not as I have seen in previous toys past, I will be quite happy. That being said, ultimately all of this is more than enough to give you a recommend from me. I'm quite impressed, to be honest. So I hope that helps. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.